Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Federal Way City Council meeting for September 15th of 2020. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the Republic
of the United States of America
and the Republic
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
Exactly. Okay, you guys. We've got, I hear that sort of cacophony. It's almost like when they do camp songs, and one side starts, and then another side starts after 5 seconds, and then another, and that's what the Pledge of Allegiance is like these days. It's kind of lyrical, but it's important to do. Welcome, everybody. We got a lot of work to do. A lot of things going on. We're going to go right into the presentations, Mayor's Emerging Issues and Report. We actually got word just recently that we have an additional state allocation for Federal Way CARES Act money of $1.5 million, just under 1.5. And Tim Johnson is working on how we can best deploy that. We've only got an additional 30 days to actually deploy that money. And we certainly want to do that. It's very important that we, when we're talking about public money, that it's done appropriately, and that we have some parameters and some directions from council. So we're working on how we can best deploy that money in a responsible but productive manner. I would like to say a big thank you to not only Tim Johnson, but Pam Jones, my executive assistant, along with Kathy Horn and Marge and Aries, an additional individual that we've got working, helping out with the CARES Act distribution, and getting that out to our local businesses. And we're doing exactly what the council and I have expressed, which is to get this money out to the places that can use it, the businesses. So we're in 2 rounds, and we've got each round was funded up to $1 million, but there will be some additional money that is not expended, but we've been giving out grants of $1 to $2,000, and per business based on number of employees. So that's gone really well. A lot of work, and I spend probably a good portion of my day in various times signing contracts and reviewing these distributions. So a lot of follow-up work has been done. We had a litter pickup event scheduled for last Saturday, but due to the smoke, as well as the drive-in movie that was scheduled also for that Saturday night, we had to delay the litter pickup event. And we're working on finding a good date where we can get out and get this done. And we'll be talking a great deal during my budget presentation about the emphasis on cleaning up Federal Way and making sure that we get garbage off the streets and just different things that are going on. In fact, I'll talk about different initiatives that we're working on right now. The drive-in movie night cannot be rescheduled. I think we're obviously now moving into the fall time, and it's unfortunate. I was actually Ben and I and Wendy were looking forward to watching the 2019 Aladdin movie, but just wasn't meant to be, and we had to make the judgment call early on Saturday. We just didn't feel like it was safe, either for people to be in their cars, but also our employees that were expected to be out there. So we made sure we got the word out as best we could through the Federal Way Mirror and through our Facebook pages and social media and every which way we could. So I hope everybody got that word. I haven't heard of anybody who showed up. After our last meeting on September 1st, we actually reinstalled the 320th flagpole, and we've got a video of that evening. And why don't we, EJ? Why don't I turn this over to you? Tell us a little bit about it, and then let's play this video.
Good evening, Mayor, Council President, members of Council, and I think Tyler is working on getting the video queued up while we're talking. So we did manage to get the flagpole reinstalled. It was a late night. We were out there until about 2 in the morning, but I'm happy to tell you that it went successfully, and I'm sure everybody here has seen the new flag flying. We have some finish up detail work to still wrap up, but the important part, the new flagpole, is up. So that is definitely the positive news. And the new flag was raised at about 2 o'clock in the morning. So it was the road was closed, and it was a neat sight the next morning as people were coming into the city and seeing the new flag on it, just, as they were going about their morning business and saw it restored. So with that, Tyler, I will turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jim Farrell, Mayor of Federal Way. We're here on 3/20th on a Tuesday night on September 1st of 2020 to watch this damaged flagpole get taken down. It was just 6 years ago that we installed this flagpole, and earlier this year, on the very first day of 2020, in the early morning hours, a car struck it, damaged it, and now it's taken until September 1st to fabricate a new pole, get it transported from the Midwest. It's here. We're in the process right now of pulling out the damaged pole, and then shortly thereafter they'll put in the new pole, and hopefully it'll be there for many, many decades to come. This is really a focal point for our community. It's a chance. We've got a brand new flag ready to go up, but I'd like to thank the council, my policy partners, on making sure that we have the resources to be able to put our flag back up. And I know that this community loves its flagpole and its flag, and now our visitors and our residents alike, every day we'll see Old Glory waving in the wind, and it's great to see kind of a historic time. I'm here with staff and the folks here that are making sure this thing gets up. As you can see, we've got a huge crane, and the first thing they need to do is pull it out of the ground, and it's quite a sight to see. So it's been a long time coming, but it'll be nice to have it all back. Very good. Okay. That's pretty exciting. And EJ, I want to say thank you to you and your staff and Flags Are Flying. It was really good to see them get that pole out and then put the new one in. And EJ, you want to talk about some of our partners to help make this possible?
Yeah, so Flags Are Flying is the one with the pole itself, and then Provac is the company that did all the vacuuming of the old sand out, and then jetting the old one. The crane company was through Flags Are Flying as well, and then we brought in our traffic control company that we use throughout the city. to provide shutdowns, as well as Federal Way Police helped us shut down, because we did have 320th shut down for all said and done about 5 hours by the time we got everybody off the road. So thank you to the officers that spent the night with us as well. And Mayor, you and your staff were out there as well too. They stuck it out with us as well. So
that's right. That's right. It was awesome. So council, any questions? I want to thank you so much for your support on this important project. I know a lot of people were asking questions during that time, and I think I told you that night on September 1st that I was getting questions from people who don't even live in Federal Way, who stop here periodically. So I know that it's popular. It is if you think about the 10 feet under the ground and the 60 above it, it's a 70-foot pole. I think what was really jarring, actually, we didn't get to see this, but was they literally had to bang the pole. This came in multiple sections that they pushed together, and they had a big block of wood on one end and a person with a sledgehammer, and they were hitting the block of wood and then they had two guys sitting on the pole on the other end, and they were just wailing away, and they had to get these two poles together. And then it was really amazing about just how far up the crane went. Can you tell I was into this? Someone said I was channeling Bob the Builder with that hard hat on, so it's kind of funny. Okay, I'm not sure if that was a compliment, but all right. So that's fun. It's something that thank you again, EJ, and your folks. I really appreciate it. Okay, we had the chamber quarterly update last week. I thought it went really well. It was on September 8th. Which happened to also coincide with what was supposed to be the first day of school. So that was a good meeting with the chamber and the business folks, and talking about all the things that are happening at the city. And I have to tell you, a lot of progress is being made on the DeVita building east of the freeway. And we're really excited about Popeye Kenworth, the truck sales company that's coming on to the east of the freeway, and a lot of really exciting things. And the big announcement that I was finally able to talk about was that Sprouts, the California grocer, is moving into the first floor of the building formerly known as Sears, and at the Commons. So they're going to take about 35,000 square feet of the first floor. It's a big deal, and the reuse of that property is really very exciting. Just want to share some of that. And those were some of the highlights that we talked about. We talked about CARES Act distribution, as well as the steps that we're taking to help our local businesses. Okay, I want to let everybody know that we are working with the school district. Actually, would like to thank Councilmember Moore for starting and initiating a discussion with the school district about Wi-Fi access. That has been a long time discussion. I think he sort of reinitiated those discussions. We have had we got another meeting tomorrow. We had another one earlier in the week with Dr. Campbell and her staff about and Thomas and EJ about how we could facilitate and help the scholars throughout our school district, get better access to Wi-Fi, and really trying to overlay where their need is with their scholars, and how we can add capacity. And so that's something that we're very much committed to, and we're working in partnership with them. So we've got another meeting tomorrow with Dr. Campbell and her team on how to expand Wi-Fi access. So thank you. And I know that every member of the council is excited, would be excited about that, and I'll keep you updated as those occur. As a person who's watches my little guy log on, every morning at 8 a.m. I know how important it is, and that connectivity is obviously vital in these days. I do want to talk about a couple of things that we're working on. Number one, we have the Federal Way. There's a coming up of the Federal Way Community Mental Health Day that was originally scheduled for this Saturday, but now I believe it's been rescheduled to Saturday, September 26th. The smoke delayed it from coming this Saturday, and it's entitled Federal Way Community Health Day, which is a partnership of the Federal Way Black Collective, the NAACP, King County Public Health, and other community groups of the city. And now they're looking forward to Saturday, September 26th, from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. for this event that will take place in the Performing Arts and Event Center parking lot. We're really getting a lot of use out of that area between the movies and the testing that's being done at that area. And now, obviously, we'll be able to utilize it for this very important purpose. So I know that all those groups have been working hard on that. I'd also like to thank Bill Vadino from my staff, who has been working from our staff, who has been working very hard and helping coordinate that event. The in-person and virtual event will include COVID testing, mental health resources, and the providing of other helpful information. So, we're looking forward to that and appreciate the partnership. I do want to talk. Yes.
What community groups are working on that?
Bill?
Besides the ones that you named?
You bet. Let's see if we can get Bill to join us. Is Bill on? There you are.
Here I am.
Okay, go ahead, Bill.
Let me get you a list real quick. There's Progress, Pushers. There's some other people. So I'll make sure you get a full list of that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And it's growing too, which is really nice. So lots of groups are joining in.
Good to know.
Wonderful.
Yeah, actually, you guys. I saw it on the news as I was getting ready to leave the house. They still had it for this Saturday, but it was really good to see it being advertised on our regional media, television news. So that's good. A lot of hard work has gone into it, and some important work being done. So I'd like to thank the organizers of that. Okay, we have been quite concerned about RVs and trucks parking along Pacific Highway for quite some time, south of 356th. Been receiving a lot of communication. We've got the Montessori school down there, Spring Valley. Long history in this community, but people who live down there, parents who take their children to school there. It's been an ongoing situation there. I personally went out on Friday along with the police chief, Tim Johnson, Brian Davis, our community development director, as well as the deputy director of public works, Desiree. And we went out and along with a police officer, Officer Green, who's part of the special operations unit, who's been working on the homeless encampments in that area. But what we've got really is a situation in which the State Department of Transportation, where the parking is allowed at certain locations along there, and many people who have probably seen the garbage at the way station there have noticed a real increase in this type of activity. We actually previously, several weeks ago, reached out to DOT and resolved a dispute between State Patrol. It got resolved between State Patrol and DOT about whose responsibility it was to have that garbage picked up, because it was just absolutely a real eyesore. And I had noticed it, for quite some time. And so we've been trying to get this garbage removed. That's now removed. But anybody who drives in that corridor knows that we've been having RVs engage in a cat and mouse with our traffic enforcement or parking enforcement folks, and they've been going around the corner. Once they're posted to move, they go around the corner to 359th, and we've had a lot of off of Pack Highway, and we've had a lot of illegal dumping. So I went out there and we reached out to DOT, and we have decided that we're going to put no parking signs all along that entire corridor and strictly enforce it. And Officer Green and I spoke again today. And as soon as those signs get up, when I know they're expediting those signs, we will get those moved out. We cannot have that kind of debris build up. And we actually did that. And we've been doing that at certain locations, but that's going to happen as soon as those signs can get made.
Mayor?
So, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Before the Pack Highway was being renovated, there were semi trucks that parked there on a regular basis. Sunday morning I counted 50. I went out and counted 50 trucks that were there and brought it to staff's attention. But once the road was under construction, the trucks moved, and they moved into other places in the city. And I want to make sure that doesn't happen with the no parking signs that go up, that we're not moving the problem to other parts of the city. So
right.
I will certainly keep a lookout for trucks being parked around the city where they shouldn't be parked.
Good.
And let you know. I'm hoping that they follow the no parking signs. Once Peasley Canyon put up the no parking signs, we had semi trucks all over Federal Way. So let's just hope this doesn't move it to another location in the city.
Well, Susan, Council President, I think you're absolutely spot on. And actually, EJ expressed that exact same thought at our management team meeting yesterday morning, that we need to be very strategic, that we don't want to just move it from one place to another. Now, we've got a situation right now in front of Montessori, and we've got kind of that choke point, but I do think a wider conversation needs to occur about throughout the city. So I'm counting on hearing that feedback, and let's see if we can get that through a committee in regard to having a broader discussion, Parks Public Safety or LUTC. I'll leave that to you and the council on how best to expedite that conversation, but it needs to occur. And I think that we need to have a real thoughtful consideration, and we don't want to just like we don't spot zone, but I think we also want to be receptive to hot zones as well. So we certainly have a problem in this area, and it was affecting the Montessori school and that corridor, but we want to be very thoughtful about our entire city. So thank you very much for that comment.
Thank you. And this is an issue that's been going on for a long time. So I'm glad it's been taken care of in one area. Let's just make sure it doesn't happen in other areas.
That's right. Well, the entire team you're welcome. The entire team that I just referenced, actually, and along with Tim Johnson, actually got out. We got out of our cars and actually hiked back in a few hundred yards to an encampment on the west side of Pack Highway, just north of the school. And there'd been some concern about a pretty well-developed encampment, so we put eyes on that, and we're taking action on that. So we've got some encampments that we're addressing throughout the city. Okay, a lot of work going on. In fact, actually, I wanted to talk about a situation, and I think we may have some public comment about it tonight, but you have all been receiving emails about a burned out house at 296th and 18th, about a block east of Pacific Highway. I went out there today. We've been actually monitoring this situation for quite some time. If anyone were to go on Google Earth and look at that home, it was a beautiful yellow home, a nice yard, well kept. The individual who lived there passed away somewhat recently, and then after he passed away, it was the home was left vacant, and then there was a devastating fire, and now the home, the house, is a shell, and it's an attractive nuisance. And we have been we have not been able to ascertain someone to really communicate with and work with to address that situation. So we're going to we are, as you have seen from the emails that I've sent, I want to make sure that you were contacted on many of those emails, but I also wanted to make sure that we could get a response out. And so actually, Brian, Brian Davis, are you available? Talk about that real quick. While he's getting on, I want to let everybody know I went out there personally today. Ben and I did after his school. We checked out the situation, and but I had seen pictures and had been getting regular briefings. But there's no substitute for putting your eyes on a situation. And every window in the front, the entire garage door in the front was out. There's garbage strewn everywhere, and if I lived in that neighborhood, I would be very upset. And so we've been going as fast as we can to try to address this. But we're going to do everything we can to get this addressed. And ultimately, where we're at right now is and I don't want to steal your thunder, Brian, but maybe you can let me kind of take a shot at it first, which is we have to make a decision in the very short term, because I told you all the windows in the front are broken out completely, and the entire in the garage door is off, and so the entire remains are charred. And so we have to make a decision where eventually the house is going to have to get knocked down. Eventually, up front, we're going to have to pay in order to ameliorate the situation. We're going to have to knock down this house because we cannot get in touch with somebody. The question is, how much time between now and the time that we get that approval? And if there's a sufficient break-in time, not sufficient, but long enough to where it warrants us boarding this up, So actually, when I went out there was a contractor out there surveying the situation and trying to figure out how quickly they could get out and get this accomplished. I know that we've got several people that are maybe likely to give public comment, but I want to let them know that we're doing everything we can. But then we're going to get this knocked down. We will then put a lien. I'll seek your approval, council, to put a lien on the property to be able to fix the situation in this residential area. Brian?
Yeah, Mayor, you summarized it very effectively. The only thing I would add is just to indicate that the timing issue that you mentioned, our normal demolition process is at least 60 days. So right now we're looking to see if there's somewhere in our process where we can reduce that timeline so that we don't have to go to the expense of boarding it up and then right after we board it up and then tear it down again, because that's going to be it's not an expense that we don't want to do. But if it's going to be there for a while, we don't want it to
Right.
Be a detriment to the neighborhood, and we will board it up if it's going to take longer than is needed.
It's really concerning. We'll talk about this offline, and I'm going to open this up to council in just a moment. But I also want to make sure that we don't have kids or the attractive nuisance piece of this, or another fire, a collapse of the structure. But I think if it's going to take more than a few weeks, we probably need to get these openings for the house closed up. But anyway, council, do you have any questions about any of this or comments? Let me look on my see if there's any hands up. Councilmember Moore, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, Mayor Farrell, thank you so much for addressing this issue. Certainly, indeed, we have gotten a lot of emails on this, and there's been a lot of Facebook conversations regarding this property as well. And I know that a constituent brought it up to me, and I also had the chance to kind of look at it, and it's really a huge eyesore completely. And the story is indeed terrible and sad. But Brian, thank you for your efforts and your work, and I'm glad that we're walking towards some sort of resolve in terms of being able to put some sort of closure onto this issue so that we can move forward with other issues that are demanding as well for the city. So thank you for being really sensitive to this, Mayor Farrell. And I guess I'll end it with this, and that's it. Is there a method or is there a way, and I hesitate in asking this because I know it's going to take time to do this, but communicating within a certain radius of neighbors in that area to say, hey, we see this, we got you, we're working on this. Is there a way to communicate with the neighbors in that area?
Yeah, I'll talk to Brian tomorrow about a letter, but also the contractor I encountered at the site today, and whoever we get to do this, we will probably put a sign. I will seek to put a sign in the front yard. Brian, anything else we could think of?
Not only that, as many people email, we will respond. And just want to say that's good news that on your site visit today, you encountered one of our bidders. That's good to hear because bidders, we want to get competitive bids for this on. And so it's good that you saw that today.
And then I gave him one more question. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, let me say, I gave him your direct number, Brian, just to make sure that I'm not in that communication loop. But he seemed like he was very interested, and it was a timing issue. But that was an encouraging sign. Councilmember Moore?
Yeah, just something that I've kind of heard and just wanted to kind of get a response to that they get an answer as well. And that's, one person said, well, why don't we get some volunteers and demolish it? What would you say to that, Brian? Just because I've heard that and I think it'd be good to kind of give them an answer on that. And that's my final question. Thank you.
So my answer would be, as a city official, we have seen that happen. It's not something that we can necessarily endorse because that would be supporting going on someone else's private property to do something. We have, our process to actually go on the property to demolish it is lengthy. And so if someone wants to go on the property and sort of skip that process, that's their choice. And we have seen that done, and it can be effective, but at the same time, speaking on behalf of the city, it's not something that I would feel comfortable recommending people do just because it's private property.
Well, most importantly, you guys, and I hope anybody listening to this understands, and we'll probably need to put this in a letter, the building is probably not structurally sound and could present a real life safety issue for people based on the level of destruction of this home. And we've got to be very careful that we don't, take a nuisance and create a tragedy by somebody being inside or near the side if it collapses. So we've got to be really careful about that. Okay. And we also, I think, Brian hit the nail on the head that we cannot condone people going on to at least presumably bank-owned property at this point, but there could be family involved too. Okay. All right. Councilmember Brusso.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Brian, for taking care of this yourself too, Mayor. Just a quick question, Mayor. Is there a way we can deny entry to that area with temporary fencing or something for a while?
Yeah, there's a cyclone fencing at what I would actually encourage you to do is take a look on Google Maps, and the same fencing, cyclone fencing out in the front before you get to the garage. It's on a corner of 18th and 296th. And the fencing will keep you away from that area, but from the driveway you can walk right into the garage. And so, yeah, I think securing that site is very important. So Brian, let's also, I think we've got notification issues out in the community, either by signage and letter, but we also need to secure that site to make sure that this attractive nuisance doesn't result in someone's injury. I'm thinking teenagers or younger, of kids that are not in school right now, or at least they're not at the physical location of a school, and I just want to make sure nobody gets hurt.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a great point, Greg. Councilmember Russo. Okay, and then we've got Councilmember Kochmar.
Thank you very much, Mayor. What I'd like to say is not particularly with this house, but to inform our citizens that we have a number of individuals in our community that have mental health issues, or they're simply elderly and they have issues with dementia. And the reason I'm mentioning that, I'm going to tell you a story, and it happens to be at a house that was near where this house is located. And a few years back, a woman lived in a house that looked like it had been abandoned. And when some people were finally granted permission to see if the house had been abandoned, went in, they found her laying in a bed covered with a blanket, and the rain was dripping on her blanket through the roof. So the people got together, they remodeled the house. The woman apparently only went out at night because she was mentally ill. And so they remodeled the house, and they had it back in pristine shape when a few years later, again, the woman was not seen for a number of days, and they actually found her where she had expired on the kitchen floor with the hot water running. And so the floor was, the entire house was destroyed. And what happened with that particular case is this person had had a wonderful life with a husband. The husband had died. And there were relatives that they hadn't talked to in years. So what I would tell our citizens is please reach out to your neighbors. If you haven't seen them for a while, you need to talk to them just to touch bases with them, because we have a number of houses that the same thing that happened on 18th could happen to many other houses in our city, and they become magnets for people who are cooking meth, possibly, or other drugs, or just simply partying at night, or simply a magnet for somebody to live in until they get kicked out. So reach out. The problem is that relatives may live in another state and they have no idea what's going on. So just reach out to your neighbors. That's all I have to say. Thank you, Mayor.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember. Council President Honda.
Thank you. I'm glad to see the city moving quickly on this house. I'm sure it's not quick enough for the neighbors, and I can completely understand that. But we've had this situation happen before, and I want to make sure that when we get the next phone call for the next house in the next neighborhood that's in this condition, that we move as quickly, and hopefully we move quicker than the neighbors contacting us.
Yeah, we were well underway
Thank
on
you.
this. So this has been thank you, Councilman. We've been working on this for, Brian, how long do you think we've been working on this?
For at least 6 months. And unfortunately our processes doesn't allow us to just go and take someone's house. I mean, there is a process that we have to go through. So we don't like to sit on these any more than the neighbors like to see us sitting on these. So it's understandably we're going as fast as we can.
And let's even see if we can we need to like go further. And I think Council President Hunt is, I'm thinking of a burned out home in Twin Lakes, right about 328. There was a cul-de-sac there, house burned down to the ground, had lots of problems with that for, quite some time. It happens. Also at the south part of Twin Lakes off 33rd. So we've had a situation there as well. So,
yeah, and Mayor, one of the things that we're working with is the funding, because it does exceed our spending authority. And so one of the creative options that we might propose to you and the council is that we skip the committee and go right to council for this funding approval. Something that could save some time on this to get it going. So we're thinking of all different options to get it through the process as fast as we can.
Very good.
I think that would be perfectly acceptable. All council members will eventually have to vote on it anyway.
Okay, great. I was just going to say I was going to talk to you about it, but we've talked now. So thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now we're on to council committee reports. Parks, Recreation, Human Services, and Public Safety Committee. Councilmember Kochmar.
Thank you very much, Mayor. We did have our meeting on September the 8th. And two of the items that were on our agenda are on our consent agenda for today. One is a King County Registered Sex Offender Cost Reimbursement Agreement. What that means is that we are being reimbursed a little over $17,000 for, the county is reimbursing us for what our officers will do is go out and make sure that anyone who had been previously arrested as a sex offender or for kidnapping is actually living in the residence where they say they are. And so my question to them was, are any of these people allowed to live in the woods? No, the answer is not. So they have to have a residence of record. So that's what that money is for. Then we received another grant, the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant, in other words, the JAG grant from federal, federal crime justice funding. And it's for things like an evidence refrigerator. So if, anybody who has been a victim of a rape, this is what we would hold the rape kits in until the person it's very important to the person the victim who's been involved in this. It's just an extremely emotional thing for them. Also to buy eyewear for our officers, to buy a laptop, to provide community event supplies and other issues in the amount of $40,000. So that's on the consent agenda. So our next Parks meeting will be held on October the 13th at 5 p.m. And I don't have any items for that yet, but that's what's coming up. Thank you very, very much, Mayor.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay. Land Use and Transportation, Councilmember Barroso.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had a meeting yesterday, the 14th. My first one as chair. A little lengthy than I thought it was going to be. But we had 4 action items to bring. We moved 1 to council business. And so we will have 3 action items to bring to the October 6th meeting, our next council meeting. And so our next meeting again is October 5th, day before at 5 o'clock, and it'll probably be Zoom. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Thank you very much. Finance, Economic Development, Regional Affairs Committee, Councilmember Tran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our next meeting is on Tuesday at 5 p.m. on September 22nd, and it is going to be on Zoom again. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you very much. Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, Councilmember Sefadawson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We had our meeting last week after, I think, missing 2 meetings. And so it was good to see everyone. The bulk of our meeting, we discussed the budget that we have. And so, that took up a lot of our time. Otherwise, our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, October 14th at 10 o'clock a.m. to be determined. It's probably going to be a Zoom meeting, but we'll see. With that, I conclude my report. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Regional Committees report, Public Issues Committee, Councilmember Moore.
Thank you so much, Mayor Farrell. I'll make this really short. We had our PIC meeting, on September 9th, virtually at 7 p.m. Some of the items that we talked about in the agenda were the legislative agenda for 2021. We also discussed updating the affordable housing. We also talked about the Vision 2050 plan update, which I think Mayor Farrell played a role in with his regional committee involvement, if I'm not mistaken. And so that was definitely discussed. We also talked about and reviewed all the levies and ballots all around King County, what passed, what didn't. Pleased that the South Union Fire and Rescue's levy did pass here in this area. And with that, I think I will leave it to that. And so I will end our report. Thank you.
Very good. Council President report.
Thank you. Today I attended the Association of Washington City's Large City Committee meeting. And there are people from all around the state that are on this committee. We spoke about the legislative agenda for AWC, which made me remember that we should probably start working on that as a city and as a council. One of the things that for the legislative discussions that AWC will be talking about this year is about broadband access for all, from the students, the youth to the seniors, because it's an issue all around the state. And Burien and some of the other cities have done quite a bit of work so far on that, and I know that we're not that far behind them. I'd like to thank those that interviewed with us this evening for the Youth, Diversity, Parks and Recreation Commissions, and also the 23 applicants who interviewed last Thursday with the council. You all did a really good job, and tonight we'll be announcing some names going forward in that process. On Thursday, I'm going to be attending the King County Board of Health meeting, and interestingly enough, Mayor, there will be a discussion on COVID-19 impacts on mental health, suicide, domestic violence, and the community's feeling of well-being. We know that there has been an increase in domestic violence since COVID-19 hit, and some of the cases are more serious than we'd like to talk about. There, it's sometimes very difficult for those victims to get the help that they need during this time. We're also going to be discussing how the flu season is going to impact COVID-19, because some of the symptoms are very similar, but the diseases are different. And it may be hard for people to tell the difference, but that we were worried last year that the flu season this year was going to be really bad and that it could impact COVID. Let's hope that it doesn't. And I'm also going to take this time to thank Director Patty Hayes and her staff at the King County Public Health Department. We started talking about COVID-19 in late January, February, when it was becoming news. And they have been working nonstop on this in our community. They've done a really good job, and I really thank Director Hayes for her leadership. She's done an amazing job for us, and King County is lucky to have her. And we're part of King County, so we're lucky to have her too. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. All right, now we're on to item 4, citizen comment, most important part of the evening. Stephanie?
Yes, Mayor, we have quite a few people signed up. We're still trying to get everybody checked in. Right now we have Travis Parks and then Allison Fine up for the first 2. So
all right,
hang on while we get them up.
Travis Parks is able to talk, and he is dialing by phone, so he'll need to press star 6 to unmute his phone.
Travis?
All right, he is.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Mr. Davis, in keeping with the mayor's emphasis on cleaning up Federal Way, I'm asking the council to earmark funds for the demolition of the same house that we've discussed at length this evening at the intersection of 296 and Street and 18th Avenue.
I got it.
I understand it's beyond the threshold for Mr. Davis that could fund without council authorization. I've worked for the United States Coast Guard for 25 years, and I understand how difficult it can be to fund necessary projects that don't immediately impact operations. So I'm asking you to commit to the removal of this public nuisance and magnet for petty crime at your soonest opportunity. I would to assure the council that this is not just an eyesore. This property has been vacant for over 18 months. We've been in contact with city officials for over a year. Since then, there have been 2 fires at the property, scores of police calls, And I would encourage you not to erect a barrier that makes it harder for police officers to see into that property. There are far fewer people accessing the property since the fire. Furthermore, I'm concerned that the suspected arson at this property could be the action of a vigilante, and I do not want to live in the Wild West. Please show my neighbors that the city can be trusted to clean up blighted properties before they multiply throughout the neighborhood. We have waited for a year and a half for this issue to be resolved, and we mustn't be further delayed by bureaucratic processes. Thank you all for your time and for listening to our concerns.
Thank you, Travis. We'll go as fast as we possibly can. So thank you very much. Okay, now we've got Allison Fine.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Hi. Thank you, Mayor Farrell, President Honda, and the rest of the council. Mayor Farrell, happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Today is your birthday.
Thank you.
And I will openly admit, I said I think that you were Jim the Builder, Bob the Builder's dad. I also have some concerns about the money that we're talking about spending on this property. While I very much understand the blight, I understand the concern of the neighbors. I'm just wondering if there's another way to do this, because if we have the ability to go in and tear this property down, why don't we have the ability, as one of my comrades in community organizing, Lynn Idahosa, mentioned on Facebook, to just sell the property now, get it out of our hands, get it into somebody else's hands, and make them pay to do whatever they're going to do. I just don't think in terms of the budget and where we are as a city, spending $18,000 seems, it's very concerning. And I do understand that we could put a lien against the property, but what will that change in terms of our eligibility to be able to sell it? So I just hope that whatever we're doing, we are making the best fiscal decisions here for our city, because at the end of the day, although it is an unfortunate situation, there are other neighborhoods, we're seeming to care about, this single family home in this, neighborhood, more than we do about some of our apartment complexes that are, filled with unfortunate situations. And so I just, I look at the deeper meaning behind that and who we're trying to appease. And I hope that we are making sure that if we are going to spend this money, that we must recoup the money. And I don't see why we can't just sell it and get it off of our hands, so then someone else can have to deal with the property and take it out of our responsibility. So I hope that as those conversations continue, that we make sure that we being as fiscally responsible as possible, because $18,000 is a lot of money. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Allison. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, Stephanie.
So the next ones we have that we show signed on is Jenny Ferguson and Mary Fierke.
Okay.
So Jenny should be up next.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Good evening. Yes, she said my name is Jenny Ferguson, and I'm speaking about the people that are having difficulties right now with the rent and everything and stuff. I'm a single mom, and because of certain things that have happened with me, that's all I am able to pay is my rent. I can't pay, and my phone, and I can't pay anything else or do anything. But my son and his girlfriend, who have 2 children, one's only about a year old, and before all this COVID happened, because the son was sick, he had lost his job, so he was on unemployment, and his unemployment has now ran out. His girlfriend was a daycare provider, and her boss had asked a bunch of them to go on unemployment until things picked back up because they didn't have enough children and stuff. So she had done that. In this process, they chose not to let her come back and stuff. So she's still on unemployment, and I don't know how long her unemployment's going to last. So therefore, they can't really. They're struggling just to pay their rent every month through all of this and everything. I'm sorry, I'm just totally forgot everything I was going to say. So, you know, I'd like something to be passed to help those that are suffering during this time and can't really make their payments on their bills and their rent and everything. A renter's protection, payment plans, anything to help out people like my son. Thank you so much for listening to me, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Jenny. I do want to let you know that we are working on, with this additional CARES Act money and the money that we did not spend on business assistance, we're working on child care services and rent assistance. I'm going to be coming back before council. Those are two very critical things that we're going to be rolling out. So thank you very much for those very important comments.
Thank you.
Okay. Stephanie.
Mary's up next, and she is calling in by phone, so she might have to press *6 to unmute.
Good evening, Mary.
Good evening. This is Mary. Good evening. I'm fortunate to be a longtime homeowner in Federal Way. I'm thankful, but I'm very concerned regarding others in our community, specifically those who are being greatly impacted in their rental situations. Many problems existed even prior to COVID. Bad landlords not honoring their responsibilities, etc. Now, since the COVID emergency has hit 6 months at this point, huge additional problems have emerged. Unemployment, health concerns. Those who pay rent for their homes, apartments, etc., are in a double or triple bind. Loss of a job can be disastrous. COVID illness and health concerns, illness of family members cause incredible stress. Fear of becoming homeless is very real. Those of us who are not experiencing these tremendous challenges must also be concerned. Our community is at its best when we care for one another. We must do all that we can to increase stability for the less fortunate among us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Very thoughtful comments.
Thank you.
Okay, Mayor. Next, we have Elsie Campbell and Karen Brigado.
Okay.
Elsie is still muted. She'll just need to unmute.
*6, Elsie.
I actually connected via Zoom, so they won't need to do that.
Oh, okay.
I've asked them to unmute, but they're still showing as muted.
Elsie, can you hear us? Just need to unmute. Maybe we could do is.
How about
Karen?
that? Can you?
There you go. Yeah.
Okay. Well, my name is L.C. Campbell, and I live. First of all, thank you, or good evening to you, Mayor, and the members of the City Council. My name is L.C. Campbell, and I live up on 19th, the 2900 block of 19th. And with regard to this house, this burnout house, earlier this week, I had been in contact with Jim, our mayor, and Brian, and I wanted to thank you guys for being responsive to my emails, and I certainly agree with the mayor's plan to basically, demo the house or demolition the house, and then recoup the city's expenditures by taking a lien on the property. And so I just wanted you guys to know we appreciate you attending to this. It has been over a year, and the local neighbors and myself and my wife, we've been patient, and we'll appreciate some real action on this. And we have really appreciated that you're now paying some real attention to it. And so we thank everyone involved. Thank you.
Thanks, LC. Sorry it took this long. We're hair's on fire now, though, but we're gonna move as fast as we can.
Okay.
All right. And then Karen Brigado. Good evening, Karen.
Can you hear me now?
We can, yes.
Oh, good. Hi, Mayor Farrell, President Honda City Council. I am an arts commissioner. My name is Karen Brigado, and I would like to address the budget this evening. Granted, public health and safety are our basic service that we need to give, but I hope the arts come in at least a distant second. Thank you, City Council, for voting another year of what I presume may be a continuation of our budget. Know that it has been the same for the past 20 years. We have had an increase of about 40% of the groups that have asked for grants through the Arts Commission. We've been unable to sustain them each and every year. So I need to explore new ways for the Arts Commission to get money. And one of the ways is through the admissions tax. The ordinance here in town called the admissions tax is the sports, recreation, and amusements tax. Of course, every city has the tax here in the state of Washington. We don't have a big football team here like Seattle, but we do have the same language Seattle uses for their admissions tax. Seattle taxes, for some reason, we exempt. We exempt everybody who plays golf, skates, bowls, swims. I'm not sure why. I'm really not sure why, but we do. So I propose an amendment to the ordinance, reversing that, creating a new funding stream for the Arts Commission, a portion of that set aside for the Arts Commission. And so we can do all of the things that we have planned to do. The Arts Commission actually is working out a Fedway Arts and Culture exhibit with in conjunction with the Diversity Commission on Martin Luther King Jr. Day in 2022. We have a lot of things planned, and now's the time to do it. Fedway is a diverse city and a diverse county, and we need to celebrate that. If you don't mind, I would like to include all of the statistics, the language, in an email to all of you if I could. And thank you for your time this evening.
Thanks, Karen. And thanks for your years of service as a commission member.
You're welcome. Bye.
Okay, Stephanie.
Mayor, the last person that we have on the line that is ready to go is Ashley Cormier. I did want to say the names of the people that did sign up to speak, but we don't show them logging into the meeting just in case they're somewhere we don't see them. That's Alice McLean Barnes, Gary Grant, Barbara Simmons, Rachel Belt, Nico Purcell, and Tycienda Bennett. So if any of those people are on the line, we don't see them logged into the meeting, but we do have Ashley Cormier. She should be ready. And then we do have one letter I need to read into the record when we're done.
So Stephanie, if those people, they obviously reached out to you beforehand, if they hear this, what would they need to do in order to get on the line? Is there a number they can call?
That's a Thomas question. I think that they can digitally raise their hand and then we can match them up. But we do have phone numbers and names, and we're just not able to find any extra participants that are matching anything. So it could just be they didn't get connected, or maybe they were listening to the meeting and got their information earlier. I'm not quite sure, but
okay, all right. I just want to make sure.
Thomas, they can raise their hands, right, if they are on.
Yeah, the majority of them are all connected via Zoom, the Zoom client, so they'll be able to raise their hands. That I'm showing, there's only one person that's got connected to our meeting with an unknown phone number that we can't cross-reference with any of the public comment signups.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So we've got Ashley. Good evening, Ashley.
Ashley is allowed to talk, and I've asked her to unmute, but she is still muted at this point.
Is she via Zoom?
She will need to press *6 to unmute.
Oh, she's on the phone. Okay.
Yes.
Ashley, I don't know if you can hear us, but hit *6, please.
Oh, okay. Can you guys hear me now?
We got you now.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you. Well, yeah, thank you for everything that the city is doing right now. Like with everything else, it's really cool to tap into these meetings and hear what you guys are doing in Federal Way. So my name is Ashley, and I'm the Federal Way organizer with Washington Community Action, as many of you know. And I'm here to represent renters who have really struggled during this pandemic. Big shout out to the state and local organizations for ensuring families in our community can stay housed, and rental assistance for helping families. I've really been wondering, long-term proactive rather than reactive measures, what the measures the city is going to be taking to ensure families are protected from eviction. There's been a really big silence from city council members every time I've approached them about making sure that after the moratorium and after the rental census has ran out, how renters are still going to be protected and able to stay safe in their homes, which has been a big concern, definitely now, and even I'm sure you guys know before the pandemic. Right now, landlords, I've been hearing a lot of stories are still asking for rent during this time and threatening eviction, which is just ridiculous, of course. And when you think about evictions and displacement, impact children from having a stable home in the normal world, and definitely will have an even more impact with barriers to virtually learning in a stable home environment. There's been communities in Federal Way that have, or complexes, I should say, in Federal Way that have had a lot of the renters be displaced during this time, and landlords just have completely disregarded that many folks are struggling. And we can't have families evicted and landlords displacing renters, especially at a time like this, it's just inhumane. So the city council, please step it up as far as contacting me and let's discuss ways that renters can continue to stay in their homes and not live in fear of homelessness, which as Mary said, is really real. A lot of people have been in fear of that and really stressed out. The city has barely any capacity now for homelessness. So I just, ask that you protect your renters here in Federal Way. And that's it. Thank you guys. Have a great evening.
You too. And Ashley, thank you so much for the work you do. It is something that we're very committed to and as well. And let's maybe talk in the next few days about how we can coordinate and make sure we get those funds out to folks that need them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, thank you for your work. Okay. Are there any letters, Stephanie?
Yes, Mary, I have one email that I received. I'll go ahead and read it in now. It says, "Hello, my name is Soka, and I currently live 3 houses east of the home located at 29600 18th Avenue South, Federal, Washington 98003. I'm truly concerned and disappointed in the city's efforts and lack thereof to demolish this home. It's abandoned and has caught fire twice in the last year or two. Please consider reading this email to the City Council meeting tomorrow on my behalf. I'm requesting that $18,000 be allocated in the September 23rd, 2020 budget to go forth and remove what is remaining of the home. Thank you, concerned Federal Way citizen, Soka."
Thank you.
And that's all we have.
Brian, we keep hearing that $18,000 figure being bandied around. Do you have any idea what the origination of that figure and if that's an accurate figure? I don't think it is. From what
the last home that we demolished started out as 18,000, but then we had to go back and do some additional work. So that was the original cost when that one was demolished. This one, the initial estimates that we're getting back are considerably more. I don't know if it's due to the debris that's on the property or whatever the reason is, but this one is the bids that we're getting are quite a bit higher than 18,000.
Okay. And Ms. Fine, actually, Allison, talked about making sure we recouped I think there's a common theme about recouping our money. So if the property's sold, if we've got a lien on it, we'll get our money back.
That's that's the design behind it. The reality is the timing of it, we don't always collect 100%, but the way it's set up is that the city, if the property goes into receivership, then the city could be the first note on the property and then receive its lien back. And with the administrative costs, a lot of times just putting a lien on the property is not as simple as it sounds, and we rarely get 100% of our money back. But that's the best we can do to get the money back.
The healthy percentage. I mean, that's
Yep.
the key thing is
Yep.
close enough for horseshoes. Okay. Thank you very much, Brian, for your work and for your people as well. Actually, I know that we've had quite a number of people out there, and I think that the neighbors are getting justifiably, concerned, upset, and it's our job to take care of this, and we will.
Yeah.
So,
Understood.
you. Okay. Very good. Okay. Stephanie, any other public comment?
No, Mayor, that's all we have for tonight.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you everybody who came and spoke.
Mayor?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
I just want to clear up a possible misconception, or maybe I'm hearing it incorrectly. I don't want people to think that we can go ahead and sell a property because it's an attractive nuisance. We don't own the property, so we can't sell it until it goes, if it goes into receivership, we can have a lien on it, but we can't outright sell somebody else's property. We don't have that legal right. Just wanted to clear that up.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. I think we're all on the same page. Thank you so much, and thank you for your clarification, Councilmember. Okay. Now we are on to the consent agenda. These items have been fully considered at the committee level by committees of 3 individuals on the council, and they are in the consent agenda. We've got 3 items. I'll read them, and when we get done, I'll ask if you would want to pull an item for separate consideration. Item A, minutes for the September 1st, 2020 regular and special meetings. Item B, King County Registered Sex Offender Cost Reimbursement Agreement. Item C, Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Grant, JAG program for fiscal year 2020. Council, would a council member want to pull an item for separate consideration? Okay, hearing none. Council President Honda, do you have a motion?
I move approval of items A through C on the consent agenda.
Second.
All right. It's been a motion and a second to move items A through C for approval. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. The matter's passed unanimously. Thank you. Now we're on to 6A, the council business, the mayor's proposed 2021-2022 biennial budget presentation. It's my honor to do this, and I just want to say before we get started, I've got a PowerPoint presentation, but before we share the screen, I want to thank Aday, our finance director, as well as each and every director and the managers in our departments. We have been working very hard to get to the point where we can present a budget to the council for your consideration. This is an initial but an important step. It represents our best effort to date to make sure that we present a balanced structure. I'll go through all this, but there's been a great deal of work in this, and I want to make sure that it's the beginning of a conversation, and we want to make sure that we hear from you, hear from the public, and hear from each and every one of the department directors. I do want to say that the directors gave recommendations or requests for certain programs, and in order to balance the budget, not all of those requests could be made. But we're going to have a very transparent process and make sure that you're aware of where the needs are, but also what our best estimations are for being able to make balances based on priorities. With that, Tyler, are you ready to? Tyler's going to help me out with the PowerPoint presentation, and let's get started. Okay. All right, and there we go. Can you make that a little bit bigger, or is that as big as it gets? That's it. Okay. Once again, thank you to all the directors and everybody involved in a great deal of hard work and a lot of pencil erasers and rolled up sleeves got us to where we are right now. I want to talk about priorities. And again, the purpose of this presentation is not a line by line presentation, but a broad overview of really what we're attempting to, what we're seeking to accomplish. And these are the priorities as set out in this proposed budget. The first and foremost, the security of residents and property within the city. Second, maintain a clean and litter-free city, and we'll talk about the efforts going on around the city to make sure that there's been a real uptick in litter, and it's something that I was even driving around on Sunday, making sure that I really noticed that we're developing a problem with regard to litter, and we're going to solve it. And I'll talk about that in regard to the personnel and the vehicles that we have purchased, but also in a new app that we are working on called Eyes on Federal Way. But this is a huge focus of our city. In fact, actually, EJ just this week, just today, instructed all of his workers in the Public Works Department to put aside their work and to take out their trucks and go out and pick up trash throughout the city. But we'll talk about the many plans that we have for that. That's one of the reasons why we had the Saturday program that we had. Additionally, I think it's very important that we want to avoid layoffs of current staff, and that's because we need to maintain current levels of service. That's in every department, whether it's Parks or Public Works, the Police Department, the Finance Department, HR. Everyone here, we run a very lean operation, as the city is well aware, as the council is well aware, and I think we've made our case before the public about that many times. But I think it's when we went through the shedding of at least, I think, 70 city workers back 12 years ago, and we still haven't gotten back to certain levels. We've had to really be very, very economical about how we approach things. But when you lose people that have, when you lose or have to go through layoffs, which we are not doing at least in my proposed budget, you lose that institutional knowledge, and that's something that it's really difficult to to recuperate, but also levels of service. And that's really, at the end of the day, the city is a service delivery organization on really a street level. Okay, fully fund most reserve accounts, and we'll get into that, and have a structurally balanced budget. I'm happy to report. Actually, can we go back one slide? Backwards. It's critically important that we have a structurally balanced budget. Now, I want to talk just very briefly about what that means. Now, there had been years ago, when I first got on the council, that there was a common practice, and it's been in different cities, and in our city, there had been a history of having what they call one-time funding. And one-time funding is where you don't have an ongoing income flow to match the expenditure. When you have expenditures matched up with ongoing expenditure, when you have a revenue stream that matches an ongoing expenditure, that is what's referred to as a structurally balanced budget. And we have a structurally balanced budget, and thanks to the hard work of Ade and the directors and this council, we have been it's really a best practice. And we're very fortunate to have Ade, who's been involved at the international level for the GFAO. And we also need to continue our recovery efforts from the COVID crisis. I think it's safe to say that we have been hit in regard to the amount of revenue that we've received at the city, to the tune of several $1 million, and it's simply because of the really wise decisions that have been made in the past several years by this council and our staff, that we are in a very good position to meet this challenge, even with the COVID downturn and a loss of revenue. Okay, next. Okay, number one priority of our city is the security of residents and property, and that's we need to adequately fund our police to respond to current needs of our community. Now, we have been at the 134 level for quite some time. Now, remember when I said that at one point we had 136 officers, and we had actually shed 70 employees of our city, from about 350 down to the high 370s, 270s, excuse me. So we have been over the course of the years working our way up, gradually getting more police officers back to a level. So we're going to go, my proposed budget will take us to a historic high of 137 officers. And we're going to get into that in a greater detail with use of COPS grant funding. And so at this point, the proposed budget is 137 officers. Right now, we have 131 officers that are on duty. So we've got we'll have 6 vacancies once if the council were to approve this. And we want to make sure that we've got adequate funding for jail services, and that's at an average daily population of 70. And we just need to prepare for that ADP. It's what they refer to that as the average daily population. But because of COVID and because of certain restrictions, we have not been at that figure. So we'll talk more about the decision leave score in just a few moments. Next. So with regard to our facilities, there have been improvements to Dumas Bay Center and Federal Way Community Center, and I'll talk about those in a few moments. And you can see a room from the Dumas Bay. It's a great facility that we have for conferences and retreats, and that's where the city council actually has its retreats. But it's a facility that has really needed some updating, and that's something that we're going to be working on and proposing to you in this budget. Also at the Federal Way Community Center was some hot water heaters and some needed maintenance at the community center, which at this stage, amazingly, is 12 years old. I can't believe it. Increased funding for network security, backup in systems, and staff support. And we'll talk about IT and those security. Actually, I've got a separate slide for that. And funding for a new shop facility study and design. The shop facility that we have for Public Works and Parks is severely outdated and bordering on, we actually had to make the determination in some ways that it was not safe, and we had to engage in some repairs. I believe at least $50,000 in repairs and make sure that we've got a facility where our people can work safely. But the real problem about that shop facility is we've got a lot of our equipment literally sitting out in the elements. And it's a longstanding issue, which we'll talk up in more further detail. But we need to get a study, and we need to talk about what we're looking at. And obviously, there will be a process to discuss where eventually that would be and what it would look like. Next. Okay, again, maintaining current levels of service. I think that's important, and that's maintaining current staff levels. This budget does not provide for any layoffs, and we want to avoid that because that does dig into a quality of life and service level. So this avoids that, and I think in this day of COVID, in which many cities around us are having to engage in that, we are not. I'm not recommending that. We also want to maintain our government QA public record system, which is a very important process in regard to managing our public records request. We want to maintain Eyes on Federal Way, and that's a new customer service app that we'll be rolling out. I addressed this in my State of the City address. The council at the last meeting, I believe, approved the contract. We are finalizing the contract, and this is really about making sure that we really engage our community to make sure that the shopping carts and the garbage and just exactly the things we've been talking about, where people who see our community see that, over the course of the weekend, I saw a shopping cart laying on its side, and then I saw another shopping cart, and I was able to communicate with Brian Davis over the weekend, and we do this. I do this regularly, but our community is going to be able to reach out on their cell phone or in their cell phone and be able to push a few buttons and make sure that you let us know about that, and then there'll be a way that people that have called this in will track it, and we'll make sure it gets done. So that's a big deal. That's going to roll out probably the very first week of December. By the time we actually get everything, we've got to make sure the system's in place for that. But it was funded initially in the budget reconciliation or budget amendment for 2020 this year, and so that is now funded. And so it's also funded in my proposed budget for 21 and 22. We also want to maintain an additional 2 FTEs for litter cleanup and removal. Also, as I said, when we first got started, that keeping our city clean and making sure that it represents, I think that there are some basic levels of service in a community. A safe city, a clean city. Those are things that people should expect and demand from their city government. And we, through the budget amendment process, in the age of COVID, we've actually added 2 full-time employees for litter cleanup and removal and a vehicle to make sure that we can get that accomplished. Equipment and supplies to keep staff and customers safe when they do return, and for the staff that we have here, and that's obviously with respect to COVID measures. I want to take a moment just to say thank you so much to Ray Gross, his team, all of the department directors for all of their efforts. in this COVID-19 process, and the precautions that we have taken throughout the city. We'll probably do a presentation at some point on that. Next. Okay, there's been a real real focus here on keeping non-represented employees. There's two types of employees. There's folks represented by unions, and then there's folks that are not represented by unions. They're referred to as non-represented employees. Now, we went 6 years in this city before I became mayor without a cost of living adjustment for employees. Now, we got severely out of alignment with our neighbors and with neighboring jurisdictions and governments. And as a result, we lose that sort of institutional knowledge of people that justifiably go elsewhere. So this budget does reflect a 3% COLA, cost of living increase, to prevent further salary erosion. We have the preliminary findings back from the salary study, but we're still working on making sure what our plan is moving forward, and we'll have a presentation on a proposal on that. But right now, the key thing is about getting this budget balanced is making sure that we raise all boats and with respect to non-represented employees. The bargaining units, they take care of themselves and they keep up with the marketplace because of representation. So this is critical that we keep up with them. 3% COLA. Next. Okay, the reserve accounts are very critical, especially now. And, where they say that, Councilmember Kochmar was in the legislature. She's very well aware of what they call rainy day funds. And for many communities in this region and around our country, it's raining, and people are really at some point drawing down on their reserve accounts. We not only have a structurally balanced budget in this proposal, but we are maintaining our fund balance requirements in all but two categories, and I'll talk about those. In the general fund, we will be maintaining a $9 million general fund reserve balance, and that's according to council policy. So before we get to any of the funding of the departments, we are fully funded at $9 million reserve account for the general fund, and that's critical. The REIT fund, I believe REIT is at a $2 million reserve fund balance, and that stays at that fully funded level. The utility tax fund is at $1 million, and that's fully funded. The Prop 1 also at $1 million, fully funded. And then health insurance office also is fully funded. Now, with regard to red light, as you know, the schools have been closed, and they've been closed for at this point about approximately 6 months. And so the school zones at those school zone lights for red light track enforcement are very much down. And in fact, actually, they are the balance in the red light reserve account is $529,000. Policy says to have it at 1.2. We're about $700,000 down, but we'll talk about how we're going to address that. But we're also kind of prospectively looking in the future as well, because this is a 2-year budget moving forward, and where we're going to look at ways to address that. We'll have to, because certain things are funded out of red light. Risk management fund is funded normally at a $1.2 million figure. As you are well aware, the community may not be as knowledgeable on this, but we were self-insured, and it was critical that we kept the $1.2 million reserve fund for for contingencies, especially that we're self-insured. We're no longer self-insured. We have our insurance carrier, and we are proposing a $600,000 balance that is funded at that level, and that policy proposal will be before the council. But it will be my recommendation, because we're no longer self-insured, that the $600,000 figure would be appropriate. We'll have a day as bringing that before committee with regard to that proposed budget item. Okay, next. Bond capital projects. So one of the things we're going to do, there are many things that we want to do, and we don't necessarily want to take it out of the general fund for certain things we want to do for capital projects and certain things that just need to happen in our community. I mentioned previously the study and design of the public works shop that is severely outdated. We have been talking about this for over a decade. We have the ceiling in that old facility. That was the original City Hall 30 years ago. When the doors opened on City Hall 30 years ago at the old fire station at 312th and 28th, birds were able to fly through there. That's where City Hall was. Well, that facility is aging now, and it's got some severe issues that it's well exceeded its lifetime use. So we have to have my recommendation to the council, respectfully, is that and EJ's as well for many years now, is to have a study and design a public workshop, $250,000 for both years, for a total of $500,000. But what we're talking about is what we're proposing is to refinance two bonds. We're going to refinance two bonds, one being the community center, which is at 8.3, which is at a higher interest rate. And we also have the 2017 general obligation bond at 5.7. We can actually utilize lower interest rates, call those, refinance those, put in these items. First, the study and design of public workshop, and I'm going to go through what those items are. Incorporate these into the new bond, and we'll save at least $100,000. This is just prudent money management, where we can not only take advantage of incredibly lower. Well, in order to be able to do this, the GFAO mandates that you have to save at least 5% in interest, and that's this would do that. So, also included in this would be IT backup in security contract, $175,000 initially for 21 and $25,000 in 22. I've got a slide later when we're talking about our IT department, information technology, but one only need to do a quick search on the internet or just a casual observer of this issue. We've had instances locally and nationally in which cities have been hit very hard. Most recently, Renton, where there was some ransomware that attacked their system. And we need to make sure that in this day and age, especially as much as we rely on computers and information technology, that we are protected. And there'll be plenty of time during the budget process and during Thomas's recommendation. But he had a whole slate of recommendations I was able to go through and myself in a day and really think about and consolidate in coordination with Thomas, and really think about a triage about what's absolutely essential. So that this is my take on what is. This is just a part of it at that point. So in regard to IT, but again, I'll cover that a little bit later about highlights. The Steel Lake Maintenance Facility, $143,000, and I believe that is for maintenance and repairs. Dumas Bay, and these are again capital projects that we're refinancing with the other bonds. Dumas Bay HVAC and windows at $20,000 in 21 and $70,000 in 22. Again, capital improvement. Federal Way Community Center water heater at $33,000. All of this combines to $621,000 in 2021, $345,000 in 22, for a total of $966,000. And then that will be added on to the 8.3 plus 5.7, and just shy about 13.96 on bond project for the refinancing of those at a much lower bond rate. Next. The great thing about that is it's almost like doing a kind of a refi in your house and doing home improvement with the money that you can. It finances that and takes it out of our general fund to where you can use it on the things that we need to use it on. And these are capital projects. Public Works highlights. So funds for essential repairs to current Steel Lake maintenance facility, which I just discussed. The addition of 2 surface water management full-time equivalents, or 2 positions, that does not include general fund money. That comes out of surface water management money. But I wanted to make sure that you understood, or we're told that we're adding 2 folks, but it's funded from a non-general fund source. In the purchase of a Vector vacuum truck with SWIM funds. Next. Parks and Recreation highlights. We're converting 2 parks employees from a half-time and 3/4 to full-time. Those are folks that work very hard here at the city, but we need them. John and staff are, as you know, historically understaffed, especially as compared to other cities, but this was at a minimum what we need to do for Parks and Rec. We've got an array of water heater replacements at Federal Way Community Center, and we've got Lakota Park parking lot replacement. Next. Community development highlights. Now, we say loss of one position, the associate planner. It's a vacant position. They've done without this position for a while, and in this day and age, we just need to cinch up our belt and move forward. I want to say thank you to Brian for absorbing this loss. We also, it's critically important though that we do that, because the development in the city, the economic development. I always like to say that Tim Johnson gets the fish in the boat. It's the job of community development to process that fish and get it ready for the next step. And so that's we're reclassifying in addition from development specialist to permit technician to improve efficiency in our department. And there's been a great deal of work done in community development with their Kaizen program and going online and all kinds of things. We're very proud of the work at community development, and we've talked about that before. But we also have the addition of one FT, one employee for a graffiti technician. We're down one of those positions right now. I think Gus is one of the lone people out there doing it. We've got people doing shopping cart pickup, but we also graffiti is critical. And I'm going to let everybody know that's listening and the council members know that every Monday during our management team meeting, that I get pictures of where graffiti has popped up in the past week. And then, of course, I always ask Brian, I said, please tell me this is being addressed, covered up, painted, and making sure that graffiti, which is really a blight in our community, and really, on the other hand, an indication perhaps sometimes of gang activity or illegal activity occurring in the area. So contemporaneously, not only do I ask every Monday about whether we're covering this up, but second of all, I make sure that this gets the language on these gang graffitis, or the graffiti, if it is gang related, is forwarded to the gang unit in the police department, just to make sure that we're understanding about what's happening around the city. Next. Okay, IT highlights. This is actually something and we're going to get really into. Well, let me take a sip here. We're going to get really into this when it's time for Thomas's presentation, but we really need to focus on IT security. And we've got security contract services, which we discussed. We'll have a citywide security awareness training. I believe the dollar figure for that was about $10,000. The multi-factor authentication to make sure that somebody getting into your system once they're in they can't exploit our system. That's why multi-factor authentication is absolutely critical. And then we're doing something called dark trace network protection that utilizes artificial intelligence. And this is something I'm very excited about. Thomas is very excited about, and something that really caught my attention. We can get in more in detail, but these are critical steps to protecting our city and the operations of our city. I just want to say thank you so much to Thomas and his entire team. They have done less with more, and things keep getting added, and there's not a day that goes by that we don't rely on our folks in IT. We did somewhat of a IT department staff reorganization that was reflected in regard to salaries and making sure that we had people realigned and they had the organization correct. And we've got a new help desk software for increased efficiency. And once again, Thomas will talk about that in greater detail. Next. Okay, recovery from COVID-19 crisis. I do want to say that we've been getting the 2.9 allocation of the CARES Act money earlier this year was very, very helpful. Now, fortunately, we can't use that for operational expenses, but we have been able to utilize the CARES Act money for expenses related to the recovery and expended as a result of COVID-19. And that's, in large part the work of Tim Johnson, Ray Gross, and, obviously in the infrastructure that needs to be put in. We had to behave and act in a very responsible, we always do, but had to close the community center in March, had to lay off part-time employees at facilities just while that facility was closed. And we had to do that actually at Dumas Bay and also at the PAC as well, to make sure that, if we weren't open, we couldn't have people, working at those facilities. And but we were able to just lay them off so we could bring them back. It wasn't a full separation. Some employees brought back with openings, and we've acquired equipment that promotes remote work. And that is something that almost everybody in the city who can work remotely does. I come in every day, Pam and Kathy here come in every day, as does Bill. But there are a lot of departments that we don't need that. Many of the directors come in intermittently, but the productivity of our workforce has been just absolutely amazing during this time. And there's been, if people can work remotely, in fact, the productivity in every department has been phenomenal. Next. Okay, actions to generate solvency. I mentioned this before. You're well aware that had we not done the jail score realignment, we would be paying $2 million more this year, next year, and moving forward. At least 2.2, but because of the reduction of ADP and everything that's going on, we'll realize even more savings, and that helped us in our. It is important that we hold people accountable, but and that is something that we're committed to. But the jail score move was prescient and really helped us, and we came up with $2 million in savings as a result of that. We had finally litigated all the way up to the state Supreme Court the water and sewer tax judgment that not only gave us the $1 million in ongoing revenue, but about $2.9 million in money that had put in an escrow account that really helped us in a number of ways. Once we had access to that one-time money, and we addressed that in our budget adjustment this year. But that's if you add those two together, that's $3.2 million per year. That represents $6.4 million in the biennium, just in regard to those two decisions, which were, like I said, prescient. Utility tax on solid waste and recycling services. Actually, we were able to reduce the average bill for most individuals over $9, approaching $120 per household, and also we're able to capture $1.5 million additional in overlay for our roads, which is critical in the neighborhoods, not just the major thoroughfares. Now, roads are as you know, roads are stratified, and you just cannot allow them to get to a point of disrepair because it's remember the old commercial? It's like you could pay me now or you could pay me later. If you pay later in roads, you're paying a lot more. And our roads have been the envy of the region for many, many years. That's just wise policy over the decades, 3 decades that we've been a city. And we need to make sure. So now the proposed budget will not only have this 1.5 in overlay, but the 1.5 what we've been doing through utility tax money, and that equals $3 million in overlay, which is absolutely critical. And then the debt management that I talked about before, just wise fiscal monetary policy. We're once again lucky to have a day help us through this. Okay, next. Okay, this is a pie chart of where we get our revenue, and I would, if you could just take a moment and take a look at that. Our overall, our all-in revenue is $125.85 million, and property taxes represent 11.39%. Actually, if you take a look at this, it's very interesting. Sales tax is at 15.95 or 13%, and utility tax at 12%. we've got the dollars and millions, and then the percentage. So property taxes equate to 9%, sales tax is 13%, utility tax is 12%, REIT is 3%. That's real estate excise tax, and that's from the sale of property and can only be used. Those money can only be used in capital projects. Charges for services at 24%. And then we've got other sources. So you could see, I think what's really helping us now is we are not overly reliant on any one revenue service or revenue source. As a result, we've been able to weather this COVID storm very well. But we have to be very, very careful moving forward to make sure that because there are very few revenue sources available to us. So we just need to. I want to, let everybody know that we're just doing everything we can to keep up with inflation, making sure that we keep current levels of service, making sure that we keep our city safe and clean, and address crime, and graffiti and garbage. But there's not a lot of fat in this budget. So And one of the things I want to, when we get all done, I'll show the budget book. And then it's got, now we've got the operational budget chart. This is actually where our expenditures are and where they map up. So we've got public works at well over 30 million of our budget, parks at approaching 10, police and jail and dispatch is over 30 million. Community development is approaching 5 million. And then we've got finance, muni court, mayors and council's office listed there. So that's how the departments sort of stack up against each other. Okay, next. Okay, conclusion. Let me make a couple of final points here. You know, a good city budget is, it's not necessarily, you know, we did have many requests. Let's go ahead and hit all the bullets and I'll go ahead and just go through them. We can't fund everything. But it is important to have a structurally balanced one while providing for its residents and making sure that our proposed budget is structurally balanced and responsible and really reflects the core. That's why I went over, I've considered the council prior recommendations and priorities. We have said for many years that the number one priority of this community is a safe community, but there are many competing or there are many things that we must balance in our budget. It would be, you know, it'd be nice to add staff in certain departments. But we just, in order to do that and make sure the budget is balanced, we can't fund all those requests. But that ultimately will be up to the council, and this is my best effort. Now we've got a link on there for the budget right there, and the budget is available on the city's website. And I have provided, let's go ahead and go off screen. Actually, I'll take questions. Actually, let's go out of that real quick. Earlier this week, I delivered to the council the budget book. You'll have it in hard copy. Each one of you should have it on your desk. And we've also transmitted it electronically for your review as well. So we have quite a number of budget hearings scheduled for the council, and there's a lot of work to be done, a lot of hearings, for the public, but this is my best effort at this point. So at this point, I'll open it up for questions and see if council has any questions. Okay, I don't see any questions. Thank you, council. Council President Honda.
Thank you for presenting your budget to us and for a day getting us a budget booklet. So we had it tonight, even though we're not at City Hall like we normally would be. My hope had been that we would be at City Hall having budget meetings face-to-face, because I think that would provide much better discussions among us. And that's not going to happen at this point, so we'll have to do our best being on Zoom, but there is a lot of work to go forward. I took a lot of notes down, and I look forward to the discussions which start next week.
Very good. Okay. And we're always here to answer questions day and night. Maybe not so much at night, but well, Tim's here all the time. He's here 24 hours a day, but that's another issue. All right, council, any other questions?
Yes.
Councilmember Kochmar.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm looking at slide, it doesn't have a number on it, but it's your pie chart.
Okay.
Can you pull that up so we can talk about it? The pie chart?
Sure.
It's
Tyler,
the second
can you do
to
that?
the last.
Yeah, I'm looking at it in hard copy, but we're going to get that up for you. Tyler, can you share that? It's the operational budget pie chart toward the end. Yeah, would you share it? We'll get it up here 1 second. Okay, there it is.
Okay.
And
so these are your, thank you very much, Mayor. So these are your figures that you are anticipating for just 2021, or are you including, let's see, it's proposed 2021, but you're not including 2022, correct?
I didn't. So
it's a biennial budget, but we're only talking 2021?
Yeah, I think I just did this as a,
okay, go ahead.
can you hear me okay? Yeah, I could have done. That's more of a presentation issue. I'm sorry. I just wanted to give you a sense of
That's okay.
What it looked like at first. But what we can do
That's okay.
is I can get you a 2022 budget pie chart. I didn't want to ask too much of. Yeah.
Sure, that's okay to help. But so, Mayor, on your property taxes at 11.39%, I know that we're capped at 1% plus, but that does that allows for the increase in the values of our property, correct? The property including what we are considering to be the increase in values, because our values are going up.
They are
in our area.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's get the expert in here. Let's make sure we. Aday, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you answer that, please?
Yes. The 1%, regardless how high the property value goes up, the city's property tax income cannot increase beyond that 1%, except where you have new property coming into the tax roll or where you have annexation. So I think what you will end up having, you're going to have citizens with massive increase in value, but their property tax would not increase
for the city
proportionately.
Yeah, for the city.
Right.
That's what I was trying to remember. And Aday, I just want to clarify something. When you're talking about the utility tax, well, we have a utility tax for the city, but when you're talking about a tax on the water sewer and you're talking about a tax on the water garbage, the solid waste, that's really not a tax, that's a fee, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so maybe we might want to change that because that's confusing. Our utility tax, I think, is capped at 7.75% total overall.
Just the utility tax, yes, it's capped at 7.75%, but the recent ordinance that the council passed increased the levy on the garbage and recycling to 17.75.
But the way you could do that is simply because it was considered a fee, not a tax, correct?
Actually, it's called excise tax.
Excise tax. So that's different than the utility tax that we have on our roads, the taxes that were either passed by council or Proposition 1 for the police several years back. So yeah, I just want to keep the two ideas separate. My other question to you today is, when you have a utility tax, not the excise tax, but the utility tax, are we capped by state law at 11%, that we cannot go above 11% on our utility tax, not the excise?
Individual utility has its cap. For example, electric and gas are usually 6%. And I think that is probably what prompted the council to do Prop 1. Also, for entities that own their own utilities, they are not generally subjected to the same 6% cap on electricity and gas.
Yeah.
Water, for an example, you can go as high as 10%. So the rate for individual utilities is different.
Okay, so what I'm getting back to is the utility tax per se. We were capped at 6%, but we went up to 7.75% because of Proposition 1. Is there
Councilmember Coachman,
state
just
law
so that
does not allow us to go?
Just so that, to not confuse the two, actually the cap for electricity and gas, 6%, may be what prompted the city several years ago to add Prop 1 to make it 7.75%. And only electricity and gas that has that 6%. And also for those that do not own their own utility. If you own your own gas, like City of Ellensburg, and you own your own electricity, you can increase that beyond 6%.
Yeah. Okay, so my question to you really is, it's just a general question. It's not something I want to do. It's just a general question. Even if we went to we would not be allowed to go above that, 6% or that 7.75%. Does the state law allow that to go up to 11% with a vote of the voters?
For water and soil, yes.
No, I know that one. That's the excise, but for the roads, okay.
Are you talking about the solid waste? Are you talking about solid waste, the one we just changed?
No, that's why I'm saying that these names are confusing. So I'm saying that the water, sewer, and the garbage should be really called something other than excise. Utility. They should either be called excise or, thank you, just to keep it separate so that I know what we're talking about for one.
Right.
But I do believe that there was something, and I would like to talk about that offline sometime, about the utility tax per se. Okay, so that's all. And I'm wondering if maybe our budget, just one last thing, Mayor, thank you, and I'll get off this.
Of course.
That our REIT, for example, may go up because if our property values are going up, our commercial values will be going up, so our REIT will go up. So this budget, although this is what we're projecting, it could be better than we are projecting right now. This looks like a bare bones type budget.
Except for,
am I correct?
Yes, except for when we're talking about REIT, and we have had big REIT years with, the sale of certain apartment complexes or, where the mall or those kinds of things. But that goes into the REIT account, which can only be used for capital expenditures.
Right.
And so that it doesn't really help us in the general fund.
Sure. So what I would like to emphasize at some point is how we raise that sales tax. And we raise because what we really need to do is raise our tax base, so that we don't keep going back to utility taxes or property taxes, so we need to raise our tax base to help our citizens so that they're not so burdened by taxes.
Yes, Councilmember Koshman, hopefully when during the budget presentation, I'll be glad to share some other statistics with the council to show where we're lagging behind compared to the other cities.
Okay.
I think that going with the sales tax or going with one form of tax over the other, we have to be careful because we are competing with Auburn. So if you increase your sales tax to 12 and the sales tax in Auburn is 10, now you're driving your customers to go to Auburn, especially when you are in that close proximity. So I think there's some degree of elasticity in some of these taxes that we have to be careful. But if you were to look at the property tax, that is actually where we are greatly deficient. And I think, again, I think I'll be glad to bring more information to the council as we move along.
Thank you, David. What I really want to do is increase our businesses. I want to get more businesses in here and help the ones we've already got to be successful. So that's my point.
Yes.
So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you,
council member. And we're going to really, all your years on the council previous and your experience in the legislature is going to help us with this budget process. So thank you. Okay, Councilmember Moore.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking forward to reviewing this budget, and I know that you and I have had plenty of conversations about thinking outside the box and connecting with our taxpayers and educating them on one of the most important documents we review as their voice at City Hall here. So I look forward to seeing that take place. And I know that each of us are going to be meeting with today, so I look forward to that as well. And I look forward to kind of digging a little bit more deeper. I know that I just received my booklet as well. And obviously, there's a lot of important areas in our budget with law enforcement and parks and community development, or just to name some, and obviously IT. So I'll be looking forward for that. And I'm glad to see some of the things that you proposed in here. And I'll look forward to communicating and talking with our colleagues and reviewing this document for its passage in December, if I'm not mistaken. So I look forward to this process, and I appreciate you publicizing this. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, Council, any other questions, comments? Like I said, we're going to be here and to answer all your questions. Look forward to the budget process. We've got some budget meetings next week, and the next budget meetings that we have are next week, and we have we've got one next week on Wednesday. Today is on Wednesday the 23rd, and then also Thursday the 24th. So we've got those sessions, and I would encourage you to watch online, shoot us emails, and be involved. Okay, now we are moving on to item B, the National League of Cities, NLC Yearly Association Membership. First, we'll have a report from Council President Honda and Yolanda Trout, City of Auburn Council Member. Council President.
Thank you. Hi, tonight I'd like to discuss the National League of Cities and perhaps the City of Federal Way becoming a member of this organization. We have two speakers tonight. One is Kirk Ross, who is a representative from NLC. He is based on the East Coast, so this is kind of late for him, but he did stay up to talk to us about the benefits of becoming a member of NLC. And Councilmember Trout, I have to check to see if she is online. Oh, she is. I see you.
She is.
She was in a meeting tonight earlier at the City of Auburn Council. So thank you for being here, Councilmember Trout. She has been a council member in Auburn since 2014 and has been very involved in committee work with SCA, AWC, and NLC. And we asked her to talk to us about the benefits that the City of Auburn has had since they've been members of NLC. And so first we'd like to start with Mr. Ross to give us an overview of why it would be important or what benefits the City of Federal Way could get if we were to become a member of National League of Cities. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you staying up so late to talk to us.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Honda. Can everybody hear me correct?
Yes. Welcome.
Good. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed listening to the budget discussions. I am the membership engagement manager for the National League of Cities. I handle the Western region by day, and by night I am a grad student, and we are actually in our budgetary class at the moment. So it was interesting to hear all of you discuss the budgetary issues for the city. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members, for having me here today. So the National League of Cities is, we are the voice of all American cities, towns, and villages across the U.S. There's approximately 20,000 cities, towns, and villages, and of that, there are 200 million people that are represented inside those cities. So all of our city members come together for advocacy. It's the mission of NLC to drive policy from our members and base that in our NLC policy. So our most recent campaign is called Cities Are Essential. This is our demand for direct funding to go to cities and towns across America from the federal government instead of going to the states. So we are working on that diligently. And then also there we have our federal advocacy committees in which members can apply to be on leadership or membership within those councils as they see fit that the portfolio of that committee meets their own personal passions. So that is how NLC policy is driven, and the additional membership benefits that we have is being able to collaborate with your colleagues across the country, to be able to have that cross-pollination of ideas from state to state and city to cities. I was listening to Council Member, is it Kochmer? You were saying how you were wanting to help the businesses of Federal Way, and just a shameless plug that we will have our small city business resiliency conference in 2 weeks, September the 29th, and I'd love for all of you to attend. So how those types of projects come up are often member driven as well, in which the NLC can leverage its platform and our national presence to be able to find partners. In this case, we're working with TIP Strategies. They're based out of Austin, and then they also have offices in Boston and Seattle. So we're working with that consulting group on this project as well. They're going to be focusing on the Arizona, Phoenix area, and using it as a case study that then can be applied to all cities across America, and showing off the innovative programs that they have to support their cities and what they've done with some of that CARES Act funding to help cities in these times. The other membership benefits that we have, ones that are more tangible, the ones that I like to highlight, we have our grant access program. This is sponsored through one of our corporate sponsors, Lexipol, and it is a database of grants in which cities can use to research funding for anything from city parks to mental health programs and etc. The database is just a warehouse of federal, state, and private grants there. So the city of Federal Way, if you were to join, would have one license on that product. So then they also, the company of Lexipol offers discount programs for grant writing if you're interested in that as well. We also have our service line warranty program, in which we partner with cities. We have a company called HomeServe that manages this program for us, that cities, if you were to, it's a voluntary program, cities would partner on this program, and there is revenue sharing that can take place there, as the product is a warranty to protect your residents' parallel lines to the city lines. So where that meter is to the house, that is not covered by home insurance or by the city. It can be an insurance rider, but it's not typically part of home insurance, and most residents don't realize that. So this warranty program is a great way to be able to cover that. And the city, lots of cities that I've seen typically earmark those funds to go into relief funding for those on fixed incomes or emergency situations in which residents can't afford to replace those $1,000 lines bringing water to their home. That we have our conferences throughout the year. We have our CCC, which is our Congressional Cities Conference, which is every single spring, in which we collect all of our members for programming, resources, education, and then of course advocacy on Capitol Hill. That's a week-long conference. And then we'll also be having our city summit this year virtually. So I would love to see all of you attend, as the travel is going to be very short, but we're going to have a great program, and we're going to be able to bring that right into your living room, and just be able to bring those experts on all the subjects to be able to answer the questions that you have. I know the work that you do sometimes can end up being the way that my uncle and my grandmother said, they were both mayors of their small town. They said it's sometimes it's lonely here in the office. It's all rides on you, and with NLC, you have someone else that understands what you're going through and can be able to be a sounding board and a resource to be able to get you the tools that you need to be the most efficient and effective community leader as possible. So with that, I would just entertain any questions that you have, and I will do my best to answer them here on the spot.
All right, Council, any questions for Kirk? First of all, let me say, Kirk, thank you very much. It's got to be 11:35 there, your time. So thank you.
Yes, Mayor, thank you.
Councilmember Sefa Dawson.
Yes, thank you so much, Kirk, for joining us and for staying up and for your presentation. I've had several conversations with you, so I appreciate seeing you in person. And both Council President Susan Honda and I have had various conversations around joining the NLC for several years now. So I'm excited that we could even have it at this level. My question to you is, you did talk about grant access and the license. Do you provide technical support or do you help write the grants?
So the grant access is managed by an outside company called Lexipol. I don't know if anybody else has any experience. They have a nonprofit platform called Grant Finder. The Lexipol company can provide technical support and grant writing skills. That is an additional contract. However, the city of Federal Way, if were to be a member, would receive a 25% discount on those grant writing services. So there is technical support there, but it is an additional cost.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Councilmember Kochmar.
Okay. Hey, Mr. Ross, I noticed that you mentioned advocacy on Capitol Hill. Now, I've been back there in years past to advocate in our senators' offices and was able to bring back over a period of years $12 million, which I thought was a lot of money at the time until I found out a neighboring city brought back $200 million. But at any rate, could you talk a little bit about the importance of that advocacy and also how important it is to have a federal lobbyist?
Yes. So to be able to clarify, so the National League of Cities advocates for all cities. So we would not be doing lobbying work on behalf of the city of Federal Way. It would be more, if we were to take the example of cities are essential, we are advocating that funding goes directly to cities. And that's all cities. So it's a macro level of lobbying instead of a specific for the city of Federal Way. But all lobbying, as you know, is a relationship. It's a relationship game. They are bartering on the commodity of trust. And NLC is a trusted name, and we have full-time staff that nurture those relationships with congressional offices so that when you do come into town, we can put you in touch with the right people. As we know, it's great to be able to have our Congress members' time, but often enough, it is the city, it is their staff that are making the calls behind the scene. And that is where there's lots of turnover in DC in those positions, and to be able to maintain those working relationships is critical.
Yeah, that's precisely it, Mr. Ross. And the other thing is, one of the staff for one of our senators said, if you're not at the table, you're dinner. So, Mayor, I have a joke for you that I learned at an NLC conference. You're going to like this.
Go ahead.
It was a cabinet member who told this to the conference, and the cabinet member had been a mayor of a large city in California. And that large city in California had a garbage strike, and the garbage was piling up on people's lawns, and people were outraged, and they came into City Hall, and the mayor at the time, the cabinet member now, said, I heard them outside saying, I want to see the mayor, and I don't want to see anybody lower. So he opened the door and said, sir, there is nobody lower than the mayor.
Hear, hear.
Sorry. There you go.
I like that.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Thank you.
Very good. Good setup. I like that. Okay, actually, Yolanda, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Thank you. And thank you, Kirk, for taking this on. When I was approached to come and talk to you folks about this, I thought that you should hear it from the horse's mouth, so I called up NLC and I asked them if they could have Kirk Russell come and talk to you folks. I have been in National Leagues of Cities. Our city has been members for many, many years, and we get a lot of benefits from them. Not only for us council members serving on some of the committees. I myself have been on the Public Safety Committee for 2 years, and then I've been on the Human Development Committee, and we meet at least 3 times a year, and we get a chance to sit at the table. We review all the policies. We get to add and take verbiage out of the policies that will benefit all of us. And it helps me with the committees that I serve here in Auburn. I also belong to a HELO, which is the Hispanic Elective Leadership official group. We have about 60 members on that, and we get together and they hear our voices. We get to go to Congress when it is the Advocacy Day. We go with our city, plus we go with our groups to go talk to them about certain issues that we're facing. There's several advocacy groups that your cities can join, and that's the WIMH, is a women's group, Apollo, which is the Asian, and then HELO, the Hispanic, and then there's also an African American advocacy group. We have gotten some money from federal, just being members. We got the CARE Act fund. I can't remember how much we got, but it's really helping our businesses. We also had council member Bill Pelosa, when he had served on there since was on council 16 years. He also served on the board, the National League executive board, and he brought to our city a discount for prescriptions. We've had several of the consultants come into our city to talk to our city about certain things. One of them was an IT program that the California had a really super neat program that I thought we could use in the city of Auburn. So we sat down with our IT people and they reviewed it, and we basically had pretty much the same thing as they had. So we didn't take them, but they do have those advocacy and consulting groups that you can sit down with, and you can invite them to come to our city. Council member John Holman, he was on the tier 1, and he had also the economic committee, and he brought several people into our city to talk to us about certain things. So there's a lot of benefits on being members. The biggest one that I like is when we have an opening ceremony where everyone gets together and hear some really great speeches from different people from around the United States. You get to network with a lot of people, and that's really, really nice to see what's working in one city and isn't in another. And they're always looking at Seattle, and they've been looking at Auburn also on some of the things that we have been doing. So I just think it would be really beneficial for you folks to be part of it too. The mayor, we budgeted every year to be able to travel to these meetings, and there's only 3 of us right now that are serving because we just got 3 new members on there, and we don't all travel at the same time. But we do try to get most of the group to go when it's when we all get to go talk to our Congress people, Advocacy Day. We also have fly-by drop in by fly, and I've been part of that, where you just go in one day and bombarding your Congress people, and we've gotten some money from Patty Murray and some other stuff that we have gone over there and talked to them, and they've gotten us some money. So I really, really think you guys should really look at it and consider it, because staff like Kirk Ross, they have several staff people that all you have to do is call them up if you have any questions. They're right there. They're so quick to get you all the information that you need and the people to contact. So my experience being on it has been positive, and it's been really nice to be part of that.
Very good. Thank you, Councilmember Trout, and thank you so much. And Bill Pelosa, we miss him. He was a great advocate for Auburn and the National League of Cities. He was very passionate about it, and he had that distinctive hat or hats that he wore a lot, and he loved the National League of Cities, and he served it well. So, Council, any other questions? Or Council President Honda, should we kick it back to you?
Yes, thank you. I want to make sure that the council understands that there are the financial impacts of this. This item was not included within the approved budget for the National League of Cities yearly association membership, but as it is proposed, we have the funding in our council budget, so we're not asking for any additional funding for the next 2 years for this. The dues will be $8,203. And once again, we're not asking for any additional funding because we have the funding for 2020 and 2021. I think that this will be a great benefit for the city. And I can say personally, when I attend AWC workshops and the AWC conference, the National Foundation of Women Legislator conferences, that I come away a better council member because I've had a chance to talk with other leaders from around the country and around the state of Washington and learn what they're doing in their cities, what's working for them, what isn't working for them. And I feel like it has benefited my ability to serve the people of Federal Way. I think that this can only help us as council members and as a city. And since Mr. Ross is still here, I would like to thank you now. Since COVID started, NLC has had a number of webinars about COVID and the impacts on cities and all sorts of other topics. And you have opened that up to all the cities. And I've taken advantage of most of those webinars. I've learned from them. And I appreciate very much that you open those up to non-member cities. I think it has been a benefit to anyone who has been able to view the webinars. So thank you for that. I haven't thanked anyone at NLC for that yet, but thank you.
You're very welcome. It's a part of our mission to, in these unprecedented times, to help support member cities and non-member cities alike with getting, up-to-date information into the hands of those that are making policy based on it.
I appreciate that you included us.
Very good. All right. So let's see. Councilmember Moore, did you want to say anything on this?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I imagine we're going to go into in-depth with this, Council President Honda, when you go over your budget.
We're going to what? I didn't hear. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sure, that's okay. I'll repeat it. So, when you go over the budget with the council budget with us, you'll go into more details with it. Is that right?
Actually, this is on for a vote tonight to join at this point, but I can go over the 2020 budget for our association fees if you'd like.
So I guess what's going through my head is that I know that I advocated for making our committee meetings more transparent, and we actually put those on video, and we recorded them. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it was my understanding that we took council funding to make that happen. Is that correct?
We do have to pay for the council committees being on video, yes.
So
we pay for the videographer.
Okay, so my question is that, if we do this, because I know everything's so tight, Council President Honda, our funding is extremely tight. in that will that affect that that aspect of continuing to keep our meetings open and transparent?
No, it won't. So the 2020 budget for association fees is $161,436. Just a second. And between the fees for AWC, PSRC, NLC, skateboard, and Sound Cities, the total would be $156.79. So we're not even spending the total amount budgeted, including if we include NLC in that. And then for 2021, it goes up a little bit to $159,964.
Okay, and because I'm looking at the council agenda here, the council bill, I should say, and I'm not sure where that is. But so I'm not seeing those numbers. That's why I'm asking. So, and you stated that this is not part of the council portion of the budget that's being proposed in here. What you can't see, the booklet, the mayor's proposed budget.
We did not propose that in there.
Okay, so this is additional. I'm just trying to get clarity here. This is additional funding of 8,000.
We have the funding. It's not an additional funding. We have the funding available. The reason we have the funding available is the associations that we belong to have not increased their fees for the next year, for the next 2 years. So we have the funding available.
For next year,
for 2020 and 2021.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Okay.
Okay. Councilmember Dawson, did you have a question? No? Okay.
Sorry, I didn't have a question, but I want to go ahead and take advantage of this time. And I do echo what Council President Honda said. I too had benefited from attending the webinars in the past, and they've been very helpful and useful. And I just want to also thank Yolanda for being, or Councilmember Trapp for being here. And thank you, Kirk, for staying up to meet with us. So appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Council President Honda, do you have a motion?
I do have a motion. I move to join the National League of Cities and allocate the ongoing cost of membership as part of the city council budget.
Second.
I'll second that.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Oh, aye.
Opposed? All right. The matter passes unanimously. Councilmember Koshmar, did you wish to say one last thing before we put a period?
Thank you. Oh, thank you very much, Mayor. I'm so happy that we're going to, I don't feel that we've been able to tap into the federal funding source. I mean, I know that we get federal funds from the Puget Sound Regional Council of Governments that gets allocated to all the cities in Washington State. But there is additional funds, and we talked about this at the beginning of the year before COVID, that are available, that we have 2 senators in this entire state, Cantwell and Murray. Senator Cantwell's staff told me years ago, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. When there are 50 cities or 80 cities or 200 cities coming at them, asking them for money, the people that are there sending a letter every month, sending in a council member during the NLC conference, or doing a pop-in like council member Trout said, there are large amounts, I don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish, there are large amounts of money that I think we can get for our city, and that's what I'd like to do to alleviate the tax burden on our citizens, those seniors that have to pay their utility tax bill every month, those people who have to pay their property tax bill. I'm trying to alleviate that burden. And believe me, I never thought we could do it. I was shocked when we got the $12 million we got. That was the seed money to build the, get the money from the state to be able to build the overpass by Costco. We still need to build the second part of that overpass. So just to let you know, there is money there that I think it's a source that we need to tap into. And thank you all so much for doing that. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Now we are on to the.
I'd like to just thank Kirk Ross and Councilmember Trout for being with us tonight. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you, Kirk. Okay.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Pleasure. If anybody needs me, please get in touch.
All right. Okay. Now, item C, selection of finalists for the City Council position number 5 appointment process. Report by Council President Honda.
Thank you very much. As I said earlier, on last Thursday, we had 5-minute presentations from each of the 23 people who were who had applied to become the next council member for seat number 5. And this evening, the council met in executive session and discussed the qualifications of the applicants. And I have a proposal to move forward 5 people to the next step of this process. So I move that, get my right paper in front of me. I move that the following people move forward in this process to become the next council member for council seat number 5: Jack Dovey, Jimmy Brown, Leandra Kraft, Renee Seam, and Mehdi Sadri. I probably didn't pronounce that right, and I'm so sorry.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Let me make sure I see any hands raised. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, would the city clerk please read those names one more time? These people will now go on to the next round for further consideration and perhaps interviews. Stephanie, would you please read those names one more time?
Yes. As I heard them, they are Jack Dovey, Jimmy Brown, Leandra Kraft, Renee Seam, and Mehdi Sadri.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephanie.
And I do want to say once again what's been said, but all of those who applied for the vacant position, position number 5, thank you very much for putting yourself out there. You did a great job during the interviews. It was our honor to hear those. I know that the council has expressed this as well, and it's very important to get out there and give it a shot. So thank you. In 5 individuals on the list, we'll hear more about next steps. Speaking of which, item D, resolution directing staff to procure criminal background checks of finalists for appointment to council position number 5 and defining the parameters and use of this information. Council President Honda.
Oh, excuse me.
Mayor,
are we going to have a staff report?
I can do a quick staff report on it. We don't have that on the agenda, but
okay.
Let me just summarize what the resolution says, if that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
As the title implies, council requested that I draft a resolution. The goal of this resolution is to establish fair parameters for the consideration of criminal background information on the finalists for council position 5. When we say fair parameters, we mean we're going to limit the kind of information that gets to council to avoid unintentional bias based on minor indiscretions or very old history or very old information. So the resolution directs the human resources staff to run a criminal history check on the 5 finalists that were just named. The criminal history check will be done through a commercially available service. It won't be done by the police or through federal or state resources. It'll be done through a commercial service. What that means is I will seek the consent of the applicants before we proceed with that process. The results of the checks will be provided to my office, not to council or to the council staff. And either myself or my designee will review the responses, or if there is anything. We'll review the information that is provided by the commercial entity, looking for these very specific things. So I expect that most of their people won't have anything, but if there is something in the background, only these types of information will be forwarded to council. So the types of information that will be forwarded to council are only criminal convictions. So arrests or charges will not be forwarded to council unless there's a pending charge, something currently pending. For felony crimes, only those convictions that occur within the last 10 years will be considered, unless the conviction involves a sex offense, domestic violence, a violation of special trust, meaning a fiduciary duty or some sort of fraud, or a violent felony. For misdemeanor crimes, only those convictions that occurred in the last 10 years will be considered, and within the last 10 years, only the types of only crimes of dishonesty such as theft, domestic violence crimes, and driving under the influence will be reported. So only 3 types of misdemeanors will be presented to council if they show up. Juvenile convictions will not be considered unless they are sex offenses, domestic violence, or violent felonies. The resolution also gives me authority to interpret, to the best of my ability, these rules in case there's some ambiguity or something that's vague in the response. I will err on the side of protecting the privacy of the applicants, I think, just so everybody knows that. But most of the time, these reports are quite clear, so I don't expect there to be any of those types of ambiguities. So if council has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Council, any questions? Okay, hearing none. Council President Honda, do you have a motion?
I do. I move approval of the proposed resolution.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Matter passes unanimously. Okay. All right. Youth Commission appointment. Councilmember Kochmar.
Hey, thank you, Mayor. I don't know if you saw me moving around here a minute ago, but I lost my I lost my power. So I was trying to get reconnected here. So I'm standing on my head at the moment, it feels like. Thank you. I move approval, to appoint Mary Allison Wood as a voting member to the Youth Commission with a term to expire August 31st, 2022.
Is there a second? Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Matter is approved unanimously. All right, Diversity Commission appointments. Councilmember Kochmar.
Thank you very much, Mayor. So I move to appoint the following people to the Diversity Commission. All of these individuals, are going to be filling a voting position expiring May 31st, 2023. Brandon Brown, Stephanie, Suprius, and Jennifer Frederick.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Is there a second?
Second.
That's my line.
Okay.
Former mayor.
That.
Exactly. The former mayor did. Okay. There's been a motion and a second. I'll second. No, I just kidding. Okay. There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion other than me trying to catch up? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And thank you so much for the service of those folks. That was a unanimous vote. Okay, and their willingness to serve. The Diversity Commission is such an important commission. All of them are. I mean, the commissions are just a great way to get involved, and many of the individuals on our council now served as commission members. Okay, speaking of which, Parks and Recreation Commission appointment. Councilmember Kochmar.
Councilmember Kochmar, you're on mute.
darn. That mute button, it'll just pop up every time. I move to appoint Carrie Becerra as a voting member of the Parks and Recreation Commission for a term to expire April 30th, 2023.
Second.
And a motion and a second. Any discussion? I got this, Linda.
You're just lucky there's no garbage piling up in people's yards.
The message delivered, though. I got it. Okay. All right. All those in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Any opposition? Hearing none, passes unanimously. Congratulations, Carrie. Okay. Item 7, ordinances. Second reading, Council Bill 786, Advanced Travel Expense Fund Ordinance. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title again after I just did it?
Here we go. Council Bill 786, Advanced Travel Expense Fund Ordinance, an ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington, relating to the Advanced Travel Expense Fund, repealing Federal Way Revised Code 3.50.050.
Okay. Councilmember Tran, do you have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the proposed ordinance.
Second.
That sounded so official. There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. The matter passes unanimously. We are on to council reports. As it's the second meeting of the month, we'll start on the other end of the dais. Let's go with Councilmember Kochmar.
Hey, thank you very much, Mayor. I don't really have a report. I don't know what else could hit us with COVID-19, with budget problems, now it's almost like Armageddon with the smoke hitting our area. Yeah, so I'm happy that we have a really good council and mayor and staff to address these issues on behalf of our citizens. And so after having been involved for so many years, you kind of have a little bit of a feeling of responsibility to make sure that everything goes the way we're hoping it should. And so I'm glad to have a few years council to be able to be part of this and to try to make sure that our city gets headed back in the right direction after we come out of this unbelievable onslaught of problems we've been dealing with. So thank you. That's my report.
Thank you, Councilmember. We'll get through it. This nation always has. But I know.
Hey, by the way, would you please tell anybody who works for Microsoft, these cords that they make to charge, they're like 2 inches long. Make them longer, please. But anyway,
I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it tomorrow. I'll call Bill tomorrow. All right. Councilmember Moore.
Oh, Councilmember Kochmar. Always lightens up the mood on a lot of things. So first and foremost, happy birthday, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Is that a 6-4? I mean 5-4. Sorry, I'm teasing. So yes, a special happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Council President Honda, thank you for answering my questions with the budget and the NTLS. I just, every little bit is just so sensitive with every little dollar, and so just really wanted to make sure that we were not impacting something else. And so I do appreciate the clarity, and I understand what you were saying, which is because the fees of our other memberships didn't go up, we were able to use that, and we'd already budgeted for that. And since we were able to use that towards this membership, which of course will be a benefit to us as elected officials. So I do appreciate you answering those questions. I think that was really important to me, at least. So thank you for that. Also, again, looking forward to this budget. I know it's the single most important part that we do as a council. So looking forward to this whole process. I forget what budget cycle this is for me. Number 3, I think. I'm not really sure, but I think that's what it is. So, and then, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate you taking the time to meet with the superintendent, Dr. Campbell and Bill Vadino, and if I can be of service, certainly let me know. But I know that you already have it under control. And the bottom line and my interest is meeting the needs of all of our scholars. I've been having some conversations with parents, and it is unbelievable the amount of stress that's being added to our parents in our community, and it is unbelievable how complex this issue is, education. Now, looking through the lens of COVID, and so um, this is a keen opportunity for us to really partner up with the school district and find out, what else can we do to meet the needs of the school district. And it's certainly not our job, but at the same time, it is an opportunity to partner up. So um, hopefully we can make sure that every child and family has connection to internet, at least for the time being. So thank you for your efforts on that. I appreciate it. And with that, I will end my report.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Tran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to correct Council Member Moore because he misspoke your age. Happy birthday, 45th birthday.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. Well, thank you.
Right.
Anything else?
Yeah, only 45. Yes, I have a couple of things. I know Mr. Mayor and the Council President already mentioned about this, but I again want to thank the 23 people who apply for the council vacant position. When I look at this number, I'm really happy because it's really showed me that a lot of people do care about the city and a lot of people willing to step up and serve the community. So for that, thank you again. Okay, so my last thing is COVID-19. I cannot let you go without talking about that. So as of today, September 15, in Washington, we have 83,962 positive cases with 2,096 deaths, or 2.49%. Now, for the US, we almost have, 6.69 million positive cases with almost 199,000 deaths, or 2.97 deaths. So we don't know when this pandemic is going to end. We don't know when the vaccine will be available, or even the vaccine, if they are effective. But one thing we do know, and that is by using face coverings or masks, is they do slow down the transmission of this virus. So I'm going to show you a couple of masks that I have. Now this one, you see the Seahawks cloth mask, okay? Now this one also cloth mask, and it has the logo of Avengers. This one is surgical mask. Oh, there you go. All right, surgical mask. This one is the N95 mask. This is one of the highest quality that you can get. Now this one also an N95 mask with this little valve right here is called cold flow. It's really comfortable. However, more and more places are not gonna allow this mask, because what happened is that when you wear this, you are protected, but the people around you, they don't protect those people, because this valve allow you to breathe out, and perhaps you might carry the virus, and you may not know. So what the reason I'm trying to tell you this is that, when you wear these masks, please wear correctly. Because like I said, the science already proven that these do reduce the transmission of virus. So when you wear them, you need to cover both of your nose and your mouth. Because I seen people that, you know, they do like this, and that is not the correct way to wear this. So if you are gonna wear them, please wear them correctly. So please, for the sakes of our health, and everybody want to go back to normal life, so if we can do our part by wearing masks when we go out to the public, or where we cannot keep the social distancing of more than 6 feet, please use them because they do help. So with that, I end my report. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Councilmember Tran. That was all very helpful. All right, Councilmember Baruso.
Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you, Mayor, but thank you, Councilmember Tran, for that. Not to mention the N95 exhalation valves, a little bit more expensive than the ones without. But thank you for that, because as being on the front lines of trying to prevent and keep people healthy, it is grateful and really helpful that you mentioned that. Mr. Mayor, happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
We want to reverse the numbers. I know Councilmember Moore likes doing that to me too.
Roll back the time.
I'd also like to thank the council candidates. As a person that was there, 6 months, 7 months ago, and understanding what each council member said to me while I was sitting in the crowd about do not get discouraged if you don't make it, and keep doing what you're doing. And I do appreciate also the work that everyone does, and appreciate the folks that want to come out and serve the city. It is very great to see. I am looking forward for the budget process myself too for the first time. So that is a good one for me. And the only other thing I have, Mr. Mayor, is again, it is National Hispanic Heritage Month. So please celebrate the history and culture of contributions by American Hispanics and Latin Americans here and their ancestry. And we have a lot here in the city. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. That is all I have.
We do. Yeah. Thank you very much, Councilmember. All right, Councilmember Lydia Cefa-Dawson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. A lot of the stuff that I had wanted to say has already been covered, but I do want to echo to thank the people who had applied and are not going to move forward, to not be discouraged, like Councilmember Baruso said, and especially continue serving your community. And you had some amazing ideas about how to especially your visions were amazing. And I just want to encourage you to do whatever it is you can to promote the visions and that you had for Federal Way, because this is not where it ends. So that's what I wanted to say. But on a personal note, this weekend, actually September 11th was Ethiopian New Year's Day, and it's 2013, just to educate everyone. And I also arrived here in the United States on that day 41 years ago. So
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And it just is a time to reflect, and also, unfortunately, it is 9/11. So there's a lot to think about and reflect on. And so I'm appreciative of the opportunity that I have here, and I'm always amazed and honored to be sitting at the table with you all, to be a part of the Federal Way's leadership. And I don't take it lightly. And I always look back and wonder what it would be like if I wasn't here in this country doing what I do right now. So again, it's just a moment of reflection around COVID-19. It's impacted a lot of people, impacted my job, and I feel for the parents who have kids right now who they're trying to teach, because my coworkers are all like, when we're in Zoom meetings, it's always about apologizing for the background noise for their kids, for the computer, the internet failing them, their computers failing. There's just a lot going on. And today on our meeting, they said, how about every Friday at 3:30, we have a cry call, just so we could just get this out. And it, was said as a joke, but it's not a joke. It's just something that really the emotion is there. They're raw, completely disheartened about the situation that they're all in, and very appreciative of teachers also. So I just want to acknowledge that they all are like, hats off to all the teachers that try to teach our kids. And so I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that have the same sentiment, feel the same way. And I just want to say hang in there, and we hope for the best, and we hope that things go back to normal sooner than later. And happy birthday, Mayor. And
Thank you.
With that, I
Appreciate it.
end my yeah. Thank you so much.
I hope they save me some birthday cake at home, but we'll see when I get home. Council President Honda.
Thank you. And before I forget, happy birthday. I guess I forgot it was your birthday. I've been doing other things today. Sorry about that. Should have brought you a cupcake this afternoon.
Oh, thank you.
I'd like to keep those folks that are affected by the wildfires in our thoughts and prayers, especially the fires so close to home. It was actually frightening to realize that was happening so close to us. And it'll be an ongoing issue for the families returning to their homes and living their lives again. So our thoughts and prayers should be with them. And also thank you to the firefighters. On the news last night, they were showing the firefighters up at the Sumner Grade fire and the tents that they were sleeping in. And I was thinking, gosh, that's awfully, they're doing a lot of really physical heavy work in hot, dangerous conditions, and they're sleeping in tents on the ground. We should do better. We should have somehow provided better conditions for them to get the rest that they need to do the work that they're doing. But saying that, with the smoky conditions that we have, it was a good call to cancel the trash pickup and the movie. I'm very, very much hoping that we reschedule the trash pickup. I had some Boy Scout troops that were ready to go and were disappointed that they couldn't get out there picking up trash, but it was not worth it to put people at risk between our citizens and our staff. It just wasn't worth it. And to teachers, staff, children, and parents, our daughter-in-law is a teacher in another state. She's having a difficult time. She teaches elementary school. We have 3 grandchildren in school, and their parents are having a difficult time. And talking about broadband, our children in Renton had to increase their broadband in their home since their child is home on a computer all day long. And daddy's working from home, and it was an additional cost to them, but they were able to do it. But I think if you don't have a child going through this, if you're, like we don't have children at home, you don't think about the things that parents have to do to be able to teach their children at home. And so it is stressful. Whatever we can do as a city council to help our citizens get through this, we should be doing. And 9/11, my husband and I went to our 9/11 memorial at the fire station. There were some other people there that were reflecting on what happened. And I myself, I'm sure others will never forget where you were when you saw the towers and saw what was happening. And unfortunately, we have a generation right now that doesn't know what happened and didn't feel the pain and the despair that we felt that day. And I really think that this needs to be a national holiday, and that we need to teach the youth what happened so that it never happens again. So to those who were there and who saved people, who worked to recover people, and to the families, we'll never forget, and we can't let anyone forget. So that we've had a good meeting. We've done a lot of work, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
All right. Thank you very much. We will never forget. So thank you, Council President Haza. Thank you, all of you. Great meeting tonight. Really, we got a lot done. So with that, we are adjourned. Have a nice evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.